Call to order the March 20th, 2023 regular meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. And our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance. And after that, we'll have our Pastor Josh Frazier come forward for the invocation. So if everyone please stand for the pledge.
Let's pray. God in heaven, we thank you for another beautiful day. And I'm reminded so often how you taught us how to pray. You taught us to say, your kingdom come and your will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. As we seek to try to do what's best for our fellow man, I pray that you would give us guidance and wisdom, that as we seek to do what is right, would also be honoring to you. We thank you for all the blessings that you give to us, specifically speaking the ability and the privilege it is to live in such a beautiful area, an area that we seek to want to make better and better. And I lift up each person that is tasked with making decisions and help keeping the order and the peace for our county. I pray that you would bless each one of them. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Josh. Our next order of business is public hearings, but we do not have any. And then after that, we have our public comment session. Let's see, I have one person signed up to speak. If you would limit your comments to 3 minutes, and Amy will let you know when that time's up. So the person I have signed up to speak is Van Walker. Welcome.
Are y'all in Buncombe County? Are you in Haywood County? I can't tell because you've given away up to $800,000 to Asheville. Imagine my surprise. Y'all say it's for economic development. What do those folks know about economic development? They're running their own town. It's disgusting what they've done, but you hand them over $800,000. Gosh, common sense is pretty uncommon. Have you no shame? And our economic development director is paid $132,000 each year. What has he done to earn even one paycheck? Our business is lining up for Haywood County. I haven't seen any lines, have you? Are you holding Asheville and our economic development director? Are you holding them responsible for this? Lack of anything? I'm a little upset, so my blood's boiling. Excuse me. One commissioner asked our homeless director, Amy, what's her name? Thank goodness she's gone, to put more homeless shelters in Waynesville. You know who you are. And they also blame the needle problem, the harm reduction, that leftist name, on the stores selling needles. Now, if that's not a bunch of BS, I don't know what is. If anyone's that out of touch, they don't need to be sitting up there. And there's a way to get rid of you, believe me. I don't know. Was this a needle problem before harm reduction was introduced? I don't think so. But blame it on the citizens. It's not your fault. Since your policies agree with Asheville, why not move over there with your type so you'd be more at home? Since your politics agree with Asheville, and don't embarrass yourself by stating that you're giving Asheville $800,000 for forward-thinking, smart, and the right thing to do since the Canton Mill closed. It has nothing to do with that. You sure as heck aren't clairvoyant and can't justify your un-American socialist agenda and convoluted thinking. It's disgusting. There are national news articles about Asheville ruining their economy and how it's run by the left. If you don't know it, I can show you. I'll email you. I actually emailed all of y'all twice this week and did not get one response. Thank you for being a public servant. But we're paying those leftist loons $800,000 And they're laughing at us all the way to the bank, and they'll laugh for decades and probably come back for more since y'all are such suckers. You're going to cut me off since I'm saying stuff that'll hurt your feelings? If you voted to give Asheville $800,000, do the right thing for the first time and help Haywood County. Please submit your resignations. We can't afford your leftist agenda. Don't smile, it's not funny. I'm Walker, a concerned citizen who's recruiting more concerned citizens. And I think y'all know what I mean. Once I expose you with full-page ads with pictures on them of what y'all have done the last few years, you won't be smiling. Because I have never in my life seen such nonsense. Thank you.
Hey, would anyone else like to address the board? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public comment session. I will state I did email you back. You must not have saw that, so you must not have seen that. So I did send you an email. You said nobody emailed you back, but we did send you an email. Okay, I've got several items under constituent concerns I want to go over with because that's our next order of business. Something that's real important that people might want to take note of, I know I used this last year, that Haywood County Solid Waste will be holding a spring household hazardous waste collection event on Saturday, April 1st from 12 to 4 at the Materials Recovery Facility located at 278 Recycle Road in Clyde. Information about what can be turned in during the event is listed on the county website under News and Highlights. So I know I participated in that last year. David, is there somebody here that can speak, or Chris, that can speak to that right quick? Chris, do you mind? So just let us know what materials those are, because I know there's some things when you go to the recycling centers, you can't leave them, but you can during this time.
Yes, sir. There's be the ability to leave wet paints, different batteries, different types of aerosol cans, perhaps some level of pesticides, depending on the content of those. It's all over the place from anything in your home. Typically, we normally take the fluorescent bulbs, some of the batteries as well. Dried paint is normal. So this time you'll be able to leave the wet paint, not have to worry about that. We have these at least once a year. Sometimes we've had them twice.
Okay.
It's very well attended. We've had a lot of folks request this in the last 6 or 8 weeks, so we're looking forward to this on April 1st.
Okay. Good thing. Yeah, I'm gonna go through my stuff in my garage and make sure I've got everything that I can
It's a good time.
get rid of then. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, so next, and that's real important, we do that every spring, so that's a really great event that we do for that. Okay, then tomorrow, Tuesday, March 21st, from 6 to 7:30 in this room, Representative Pless and representatives from the Plant Industry Division of North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services will be conducting a public meeting about planned treatment for spongy moth, an invasive species that has been discovered in Haywood County, particularly in the Crusoe area. So that'll be tomorrow night in this room. Okay, then next I want to talk about every March is social workers are recognized for their hard work and effort by the National Association of Social Workers. On today's consent agenda, there's a proclamation about this being Social Work Month, and I want to take a moment to recognize some of our social workers who are with us today. Heather Wright, if you would stand up and I call your name. So Heather Wright, Terry Patterson, Sierra Shepard, Rachel Young, Shannon Bradshaw, and did Gayla make it? Gayla Jones? And you got one more? Kim Arrington? Okay, all right. Well, we appreciate your work. I know it's a hard job. I just want to say these women and their co-workers in the Social Services Department at Health and Human Services work hard every day to keep our county's most vulnerable population safe. It's a job that comes with a personal price to each social worker who makes the choice to be in the profession. Stress and burnout are common problems in this line of work. Social workers go out in the field to respond to all kinds of circumstances, some of them pretty awful, and they do everything within their legal power to improve the situation. Social work can be a challenging and sometimes thankless job, and we want to recognize these folks do incredible work to make sure that our kids, seniors, and vulnerable adults are safe. And we appreciate what you do and your resilience in a very challenging line of work, and we thank you for being with us today. So thank y'all for coming out. We appreciate you. Okay, then next, I think, David, you wanted to, can you give us an update on the job fairs that are going on and any other items that, I know you've had a busy last couple of weeks.
Good evening, Commissioners. As they say, it's been a long, strange trip since 2 weeks ago. And some things that have happened that I didn't think would happen have happened. And but when these things happen, that's when you see the heart and soul of your community, and you see how people pull together. And you see the people that pull together in your community, people pull together from Buncombe County, Henderson County, Jackson County, Mecklenburg County, Wake County. Those are all the counties I've heard from who want to help during this crisis and situation that we found ourselves in with the mill closing. As I said, before, and you've heard me say this, that we've got 1,160 people that we've got to take care of first. And so with that, we have, within less than 24 hours after we heard the news that the mill was closing, we had a policy group together to talk about what the next steps were. Less than 24 hours, we had a website up, haywood.edu/evergreen, where mill workers could find information about what the next steps are. And every day, our county and the town of Canton have worked through this crisis and situation. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying to help because this impacted 80%. 80% of the workers were from the Haywood County. 500 workers came from the Canton zip code alone. So what we've done in this short amount of time, I think Mr. Moorhead even had a conversation with the previous economic director he worked with, said, I don't think there was anything else y'all could have done so quickly. But that's what, it works in a community like we have here, because everybody comes together. Something a pandemic prepares you for, something that, a flood prepares you for, doesn't prepare you for this, but you know the people that you can rely on when this happens. So the good folks at the town of Canton worked with Pinnacle Church. They had 600 people that attended a job fair last Thursday. We've got another great job fair over in Buncombe County. It's going to have over 700 employers over there. So luckily, right now, there's about 1,200 jobs out there that for just in manufacturing alone. Just in manufacturing, there's 1,200 jobs available right now. So we've got a skilled workforce that can go and fill these jobs, and hopefully we'll find that soft landing for everybody. So this next job fair is going to be over at the Expo Center in Fletcher, basically across from the airport. Amazon's going to be there. Pratt & Whitney. Pratt & Whitney doesn't normally go to job fairs, but the Asheville folks got them encouraged to come and participate into this job fair, so they're going to be there. For those of you who don't know, Pratt & Whitney developed a incubator site to work over at Haywood Community College. Pratt & Whitney was recruited by the Asheville Buncombe folks to come and work over there in Haywood County, or in Buncombe County. 800 plus jobs over there. So they had 2 graduates from Haywood Community College that went through this machinist program. They're earning over $65,000 a year from Pratt & Whitney. And those folks in Asheville, Buncombe, our partnership, recruited those folks, recruited Pratt & Whitney. It was because it's a regional concept. 24% of our workforce leaves Haywood County, and goes into Buncombe County to work. There's no leftist, rightist, socialist. This is jobs. This is what we're here to do, is help provide jobs. Not be up here calling names out. Especially at a time like this. It's pretty damn sickening. So we got that job fair on Thursday, March 23rd. Encourage, if you've got any questions about that, please come over. We're going to be there. Haywood, I'm going to be there. Haywood Chamber's going to be there. We're going to be able to help meal workers go through and find the jobs that they want. Any services, wraparound services, we'll have a special room for them for wraparound services if they need financial assistance. Times like this, mental health is one of those things, and stress. We'll have people there to provide them. Ira Dove and Teresa Allison, Haywood, Department of Social Services are going to be there as well too to help us, for any workers that need this, to reach out and help us, and we can help you, guide through this. So we got that job fair. Also, we've got another job fair coming up. It's going to be at Lake Junaluska. It's through International Paper. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that International Paper, was a former owner of the plant, but they're not going to be reopening this plant. They're looking for for workers to go work in other plants in North Carolina. There's going to be at Newbern and Rigglewood, North Carolina. They also have openings in Georgia, Virginia, South Carolina. So they're going to be at Lake Junaluska at the Herald Center on March 23rd, 24th, and 25th from 9 to 5. We'll be there in attendance as well to help anybody, any of the mill workers there that may need other wraparound services. We'll be there as well too. We just, Waynesville Country Club is under new ownership. They are going to be hiring as well. They're going to have a job fair on March 15th through March 22nd, and then March 29th through April 5th. And those hours were 10 to 5. Excuse me, let me put that. March 15th, 22nd, 29th, and April 5th. It's a Wednesday from 10 to 2 p.m. Should have made the print a little bit bigger. So there's job fairs, and anybody that's looking for a job, please call my office, the Chamber, Haywood Community College, the Town of Canton. Town of Canton has a millstrong.org website up as well. So there's information there for any of the workers for job fairs or any other wraparound services that may be needed. So I know one of the questions about what, things that we're waiting on to happen. When our conversations with the mill, the folks, is about the WARN letter. Okay? So the WARN letter is the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notice. Once that notice is provided to the workers from the Canton Mill, that sets into a whole string of operation, and more opportunities come available for the workers as well too. So the federal law, the WARN Act, governs the process for filing a notice. The Act seeks to protect workers, their families, and their communities by requiring employers to provide 60 days advance notice of certain plant closings and mass layoffs. Businesses that employ at least 100 workers, excluding part-time workers, are required to file a WARN notice if they're preparing to take one of the following actions. Close a plant that affects at least 50 employees during a 30-day period. This does not include workers who have worked less than 6 months during that last year, of employees who have worked or who work less than an average of 20 hours a week. Conduct a mass layoff of at least 500 employees or a layoff impacting between 50 to 499 employees when that number represents at least 1/3 of the employer's workforce. The WARN notice triggers a rapid response team into action, providing transition support for the employees that have been impacted by the closing. So that impact, so we're working with the Land of Sky and the Southwest Commission. They are councils of governments. Southwest Commission takes care of Haywood West. Land of Sky takes care of Buncombe, Transylvania, Henderson, and Madison. So we are cooperatively working together. That regional approach. We're working together to make sure all these workers have a place to land. So once the file notices, workers are eligible for worker retraining and support benefits through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. If a worker transitions from Pactive Evergreen to another employer before the layoff occurs, then they will most likely not be eligible for these benefits. The dislocated worker could need to be enrolled into the Career Division Advisor by the NC Works Career Center to receive these benefits. If after the enrollment they obtain another job, they are still eligible and they are enrolled prior to obtaining employment. So what that's saying is, because I know 25 workers now have already found and already, I think this week probably started working for new employers. They would not be eligible for some of the programs and benefits after the WARN notice are part of the rapid response team. Okay? They also may be losing some of the benefits from the 60-day notice that they give as well too. You know, we've heard that there'll be 1 week's of severance for every year they've worked. There's going to be some counseling there for the 401k, things like that. Those things will still, the 401 counseling will be available, but they may lose the severance pay if they leave before the WARN notice. Okay? So that's one of those tricky situations that somebody has to decide for themselves. Do I want to leave, go find another job before the WARN notice comes out, or do I want to stay to the end? That's certainly up to the worker to decide that. Okay? But I've heard over and over again of people that have found jobs at the job fair. I know that 6 people picked up, was going to a new paper manufacturer over in Buncombe County. I didn't know there was another one over there. And so they're going over there. 3 people heading over to Jackson Paper. So, you know, they're finding that landing that we need, that we're here to help them find that landing with. And that's what's the most important, because, you know, I'm working with the Jackson County, Economic Development Director, Buncombe County Economic Development Director, and making sure that everything comes out as smooth as possible as we can during this transition. Because you've heard me say, we've got to protect the 1,160 workers first. And the next thing we have to really work on is the wastewater treatment side. Then we work on what happens with the plant later. But those are 2 monumental tasks facing us right now. So there is good news out there after this happened after 2 weeks. I know people have found jobs. I know some people found jobs that were paying more over in Buncombe County than they were receiving here in Haywood. So that helps. Those good stories help after a while. But we have to be optimistic during this. We have to be optimistic through this. We have to get through this. We have to get through this together. That's the only way we succeed at this, is getting through this together. I came in at the tail end of the Dayco closing that shut down. We heard a story where the county manager and a couple of folks went up to Rochester, New York, asking for the same thing. Can you please open your plant back? Don't let this happen to us. They said, no, we can't do that. And then after that, I saw what the power of the Haywood Community College has. When it's all people get retrained for electricians, retrained for plumbers, knowing how to run their business through small business, the center. Those are the powers that we can provide and help provide to help people. They've changed their lives totally from working into a factory to doing something totally different. And the community college, stands by, ready to help. On the website, on the Haywood Community College website, you'll see a packet of small training that some people can do to enhance their job skills rather quickly. There's lots of information out there. We're glad to help out in any way we can. But I think things are, moving. I know some things may move slow, and sometimes things are moving rapidly and other times. But those things, we got to keep moving and make sure that we're listening and hearing what the workers need the most and foremost. Questions?
Was the employers, are we hearing from Giles and Sunoco that are here? Mm-hmm. And then Pratt and Whitney?
Yeah.
Are they?
So
okay.
Giles picked up 16 applications by last Wednesday.
Okay.
Sunoco had a few. They didn't give me an exact number at Sunoco. So Giles has about 35 jobs open. Sunoco has about 22.
Okay. And at one job fair, it was really, not job fair, the meeting we had last Friday, I remember a fella asked about, I guess he was with Southwest Commission. He said there was over 1,100, I believe, manufacturing jobs in the region. Mm-hmm. Yeah. that was available.
There's 1,200 manufacturing jobs in Haywood, Buncombe, Henderson counties alone.
Okay. And I do appreciate Southwest Commission, Land of Sky, pulling their resources to get as many benefits as we can for these displaced workers, as well as help them find jobs.
And last week they had the first round of meetings about how, when the WARN notice goes out, about how they're going to sit down with the workers. There's an auditorium down there that they're going to be able to take departments and sit down and explain, how the benefits that will be available to them through the NC Works and through Haywood Community College. So David Garrett with Southwest Commission and Nathan Ramsey, who's over the Land of Sky, but he's also Director of Workforce Development over there. So they've already laid out a plan to get into the mill when that is time and be able to work with those workers and fully explain everything that happens with rapid response.
David, I know that on our conference call, we talked about, I think Allison was going to take care of getting the memos put up on the boards down in the mill. Do you know if that's been done, that's posting the job fairs along with some of these open positions?
When I was down there on Saturday, I did not see anything then. The union office was closed, so I was trying to follow up with that, but I'll follow back up with that tomorrow and make sure that that information is down there as well too. We did, over the Saturday, we did post signs about the job fair over in Nashville, just to make sure we did a loop around the mill and out at the Waynesville plant as well too. So we did
Good.
post signs.
I actually seen some of those, so that's good. We also have that on that website, Milltown website, is that correct?
Yes.
What about our own website? Do we have anything on that?
We've just been trying to where we don't have too many information out there. If we
Send
had
them to it.
Yeah, we'd just be directing folks out there to that website.
That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
best.
Yeah, because there's no sense in repeating that. And it's one of the things that we don't have a lot of resources here, except with, through the Department of Social Services. But those resources that they need are with the NC Works and the community college is that first place that you need to go and get help from.
Oh, we was also working with the town of Canton, like getting a call center set up, and you may have mentioned that. Do we have it set up?
Not to my knowledge of today. Brian was here long ago, yeah. But I think that will be a good, when that warn notice goes out, and then that will activate that call center then. Because right now, we're sort of in just a waiting game about when that warn notice goes in. So everybody's ready to go. Things are mobilized. We've talked to NC Works, who will also have a mobile trailer that could go down and be set up down in the town of Canton at that point in time, where people can go in there and start working on, looking at job opportunities there if they wait till after the warn notice goes out as well too.
Well, just also a thank you to you and Bryant and Chris and our whole county staff, along with all the municipalities and everybody else that's involved, HHS. Like you said, it was actually a whole lot less than 24 hours. We found out at 5:30ish, I guess, on Monday evening. And, the next morning, 8 o'clock, we had a conference call getting things rolling. So, and not only that, but I know a lot of us was on the phone late on Monday night trying to get things lined up and organized. So many thanks to everybody involved, to you, our staff. I know our state folks and everybody else. Seems like everybody's coming together. Reminds me of when the flood happened. Everybody jumped on board and said, what can we do? So it's good to see. Good to see a community come together.
Yep. I got one other announcement that's going to be tomorrow. Haywood County Schools volunteers from Haywood and Buncombe retired educators, Canton Rotary Club, Canton Lions Club, and concerned individuals will be on site to support mill workers. Each participant will leave with a paper copy of a resume, an electronic version on a flash drive. If you plan to attend, please have a written outline of your work experience. And that will be at the Education Center in Clyde. So that's tomorrow and Wednesday from 9 to noon, and again from 1 to 5. Because one of the things that when we left at the job fair at Pinnacle, there were a couple of folks said I got to update my resume. A couple of employers were asking for that. So that was very timely that this group got together and had that. Again, what a good community to have that they pulled that together without any prompt. They just did that on their own. So good things.
Have you had any interest in any industry that's needing help, like some of the ones over in Buncombe that had showed any kind of interest in moving anything over to Haywood County or anything?
We've had conversations in the past about, Buncombe County businesses expanding this way. We've had one inkling of somebody that kind of was looking now. about an expansion over this way. But that's those very early conversations on. So one of the interesting things you bring up, Mr. Ramey, is that a business that we recruited back in 18 and 19, and we were the finalist, and then COVID hit, and just they said we got to pull back. They reached out, had an hour-long conversation with them. And they said that you all made such an impression on us that we want to come back and we want to pick up some of the slack. So if Evergreen was providing, meals for seniors or doing something like that, we want you to get that number to us because we want to help provide, even though we didn't move into your community, we want to help provide that slack where that charitable aspect that got lost with Evergreen pulling out. We want to pull that out. That's the power of that relationship that we had, Mr. Ramey, with the Asheville Buncombe folks. When we recruited that business in, they still thought enough of us to reach back out, and still provide, some of the charitable needs that may be going through in the next couple of years.
It'd be a good time for them to think about it right now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Get in here
Yeah.
and get some good workforce people to.
Yeah, we've got, hopefully, this will be interesting opportunities that come. We still don't know what the disposition of the meal is. One of those things that I think that we may not agree with what happened in the way it happened, but the thing that we always need to be is to be able to work with the meal as they go forward, because we don't want to lose a seat at the table. We're getting ready to talk about DACO, and we talk about we lost the ability to sit around the table when DACO pulled out. The county wasn't involved, the town of Waynesville wasn't involved, and it took a lot of legal wrangling to get that back. And then they had, I came to the county and I came to the town I said, hey, here's this path. I said, we each contribute some money and we can get this property back. And it took, going through bankruptcy court, but we got that property back. I know it's not, we'd like to have the jobs up there, but we were able to turn that into something. And I want to be able to to turn the mill into something that's good for the county and the town. Because one of the things that, we've learned over the last 2 weeks is, we're talking about the ripple effect. We have a survey up on the chamber website. If you're a business that's impacted by this, closure, please go up there and let us know, because we're doing an impact study. What is that ripple effect of the closure? There's trucking companies that are closing down. The mill was responsible for purchasing $200 million worth of chips in over 4 states. It's not a ripple anymore. It's a wave. It's a wave. So what is those effects? So that's one of the things we always need to maintain, the ability to be able to communicate well with each other, be able to, go, to the mill and say, hey, we need, please help us, convert this back into jobs or like that. And that's what I'd like to see in the long run, is how we're able to sit around the table, get over this adversity, and be able to bring some more jobs into the facility.
I just got a quick comment. I personally was affected by the mill shutdown, and I'm reminded of that insurance commercial where that guy's sitting at the red light and the wheels pop off his car and the hood pops up and the radiator blows up, and I think the caption is "Life comes at you fast." Mm-hmm. When we had our meeting here 2 weeks ago, it was a regular day, and everything's rocking along smooth, and then we got that news late in the day Monday. Mm-hmm. And I will say that I've been impressed with our county staff, Bryant, you, others who was on. You were on the phone shortly after that announcement was made, trying to formulate a plan. And Dr. White out at HCC and all of our regional elected officials, our state legislative delegation, Kevin Corbin, Mark Pless, Carl Gillespie, Mike Clampett, the governor's office, they were on the phone with county staff morning after, and every single person has overwhelmingly pledged their support. Our U.S. Congressman Chuck Edwards, he flew in on Thursday night to be at the rapid response meeting at HCC. And one of the largest private employers west of Asheville in his district, and he's doing his job. He came and represented well and pledged any and all federal aid that was available to these displaced workers. And it is heartbreaking. Our mill has a $500 million regional footprint. Railroads affected, the timber industry is affected, chip mills in 3 or 4 states, all of the satellite support networks in our county, from auto parts stores to fuel delivery, it's just huge. Coal, that mill had a $500 million economic footprint per year. And, you know, Canton prides itself as being a blue-collar mill town. And, you know, it's an important part of this county. It has been since 1908 or before. And so if you were a Haywood County resident, a longtime resident, and didn't catch that news, you had to have your head in the sand. And I know a lot of people that's not from around here, they could care less. But I'm telling you, it's a shot that's heard around the county. That happened about 5 o'clock, 5:30 last 2 Mondays ago. But I appreciate all of our elected leaders. And I think our chairman said it well at the meeting. There's no politics involved. Families are affected. People with young children, people with home payments, car payments. And an integral part of a stable society, and I see the sheriff back there, he can tell you that a stable home with income, working families, it's key to a stable society. And so when we lost that mill, when the announcement was made, it was tough. And personally, and as the county's concerned, you know, we have to have a step back and breathe and see what kind of an economic impact it's going to have on us. And so, yeah, it was a big deal, but I do commend everyone that was at the rapid response meeting. You mentioned David Garrett and Nathan Ramsey. Asheville Chamber of Commerce was there. This regional partnership that we have formulated and kept bridges, it's going to help our people. And it's key, networking and partnering together. It's going to see us across the finish line. And I know a lot of our employees are excited about new opportunities, that they've had doors open to them. A lot of them already got other employment, some making more money than they were making. And it's encouraging to see that. But over the long haul, with HCC's partnership, when the warning letter is issued and those funds are released for training employees, there's going to be a lot of employees taking advantage of the training that's going to be offered at HCC and with our partners with like Pratt & Whitney, who's got that incubator there. And so I've always told our employees, you know, I interviewed with 2 or 3 different news organizations. And, you know, I can say it here because it's on video and it's not going to be cut out. You know, Psalms 34:6 said, this poor man cried and the Lord heard him and delivered him out of all of his troubles. That's true. And we had the prayer meeting down in Canton. And that comment got edited out, by the way. I said that. Two different news organizations. Lamentations 3:22 is also one of my favorites that hits pretty heavy to our county folks. Lamentations 22 says that great is thy faithfulness. And it says that his mercies are new for us every morning. So we have a fresh dose of mercy every day. And his faithfulness is great. And there was a great song titled that was inspired by that scripture. So, you know, those got edited out, guys. So when you talk to the news folks, just have your recorder on, just for your benefit. But, you know, that is our message. Our message is a message of hope. God did not shut down 2 weeks ago. He did not announce he was going out of business. And our county is a county of faith. And I have communicated that. And our workers, hey, they believe in miracles, and they know that God's going to take care of them. So, however which way he decides to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's through folks like you. I know I'm taking a little extra time, but, you know, it's through folks like you and our partnerships that's going to link these folks with jobs and career training that's going to make a difference. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. You know, and I appreciate your words of wisdom there, and those prayers are extremely important now. And, but, as you said, when we had those first meetings, and it was about making sure that we had things in place where we could offer that hope, and that, the workers knew that, they weren't going to be abandoned, that they knew those steps that were going to be taken, to help them in this situation. And that's what, was that those partnerships, as you say, that's what really means, is that we're providing that hope, when, what's in the 3 weeks, the 3 months, and if it takes 3 years, we'll be here to make sure that those folks, find jobs and better employment.
The announcement 2 weeks ago, my first phone call, and my first question was, is our region strong enough to absorb these workers? Mm-hmm. That was my first question. Mm-hmm. And that was my first thought, that we needed to make sure that our workers were going to be these loved ones of ours. I was kind of making a list when Tommy was talking. My husband is 39 and a half years at the mill. My mother-in-law finished her career from DACO to the mill.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm.
My stepson has worked there. I mean, I can keep going. My dad worked in the Canton Depot with Southern Railroad till they shut it down in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So it's as much a part of my family as it is the entire community, and taking care of those workers is number one. Quick response, Brian and I have talked about this a lot, quick response in the immediate moment of a crisis, and that is a crisis, but also the longevity of wastewater and what happens to the site. All of those things will come to the desk of the elected officials in this, or the elected, people in this county and in the municipalities, and it certainly is. It is weighty, and it is of great concern, I think, to all of us. But I'm very thankful that we live in an area that has such a strong region, and that we have ethical, hardworking people who they're going to go back to work, and it's going to be a success story for those people. I said to Zeb, we called it Milltown, but it was never the mill that made the town. It was the town that made the mill. Mm-hmm. And had it not been for the workers and the families and the generations that went back to that place, that mill would never have been successful. So now we'll spread those people into the region, and they will help other organizations and companies to rise up and be successful. And I'm so proud to get to be a part of that. So I appreciate what you've done, what the college has done, what, when I asked David from the Southwest Commission, he was talking about meeting with the employees about what their severance package, unemployment package, education, assistance, that's individual. It's not a flyer that's hung on a wall somewhere or a blanket text message. They're individually going to meet with these people and explain their individual benefits. And I'm proud that we get to be a part of that. It's an unfortunate situation, and it's sad for a lot of people, but we're going to rise up and come out of this, I think, okay in the end.
Yeah, it's like you said, Commissioner Best is going to take that work and that longevity, of moving it forward. And as I told you that, we're thinking about this every day, and we're thinking about, the next steps for wastewater every day. We're having conversations about it every day. Think about, what can the mill be? When does, they get their stuff they need to be done to where they can, turn it over to, for it to be developed, or, can it be resold? So.
Just clarify, because we do have a lot of people that aren't from here. Mm-hmm. When you say wastewater, explain that just a little bit, what that means.
Okay. So the town of Canton, and of course this was dated back with the Champion International, then had a 1964 agreement where the mill would treat the wastewater from the town. If you look, if you're going there's 4 large clarifiers, 3 of them are operational right now. And so that wastewater is then mixed with some of the waters from the processing, and then it is discharged. So that's agreement's been there since 1964. The mill has served notice to the town that they will stop treating that wastewater in March of 2025. And so the clarifiers or the treatment processing sets on the mill's property. It's not a town of Canton function. Town of Canton does not operate that. The mill is operating the wastewater treatment facility. So therein lies one of the biggest problems from all of this. So, you know, you can go through all the scenarios in your head and try to figure this, that, and out, and that's what we're doing at the moment now. You know, so that's a huge issue. So what happens on, in March of 25, that's what we're working towards every day about what are we doing? Working towards a new treatment facility, looking to have a huge renovation, project down there, but then you got to talk about ownership. There's just there's a million things to think about as we consider this. So there's that, because it's just an unusual situation. There was we learned about a few mill towns down east, some textile mills treated for some small towns, but nothing to this magnitude as well. So it's a lot of different circumstances that we have to get through.
At some point in time, did the county and Canton talk about building a treatment plant at one time?
Yes, sir. We've been talking about that for about 2 years.
Anything?
We started talking about the floods hit, and then so there is some money that the town received to explore the wastewater treatment. So there's a feasibility study. Hopefully it'll be here by the end of the month, 1st of April, about what that treatment facility would look like. Hopefully it'll have cost and things like that. But that's hopefully be here in the next couple of weeks.
Anybody got anything else they want?
Okay. All right. Okay. I appreciate the time.
Let's see, Brian, did you want to say anything along these lines?
Appreciate what you're doing, what everybody's doing.
Okay. Yeah, it's a total a team effort. I harassed Chris on Saturday night about it. So, it takes a lot of thought, and perseverance is the key at this point. Perseverance, moving forward. That's what we got to do. All right, thank you.
Well, just some of the comments that were directed at me, I'm going to respond to those. The needle or the syringe exchange program is a state program. It would not exist if it weren't for the state. We have no control over the health of the community is controlled by the state, and they allow this to happen. And just to give you all some background, Jim Davis was a co-sponsor. He was one of the most conservative senators we ever had. He co-sponsored that bill for that. It was supported by Ralph Heiss, who represents the Canton area now, a state senator. He's very conservative. Michelle Presnell voted for that bill. All our local delegation Republicans voted for that bill. Bill Hollingshead, the Waynesville police chief, supported that legislation. Pat McCrory signed that. It was the governor at that time. He signed that bill into law in 2016. So that's why that program exists. It's from the state. It's not a county program. It may be an issue, but it is a state issue. So that's the reason and I support that because it is a state issue, and I support those lawmakers that passed that. I have the utmost respect for them, and they're just trying to help people, and that program has expanded in the state. But it's controlled by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. I've talked to the director there, or rather to the representative. She's from Cabarrus County that chairs that committee, and she says that, and she'd sent me an email to me, and she said she understands. She gets the same kickback and everything about it, but she supports the program. Chuck Edwards tried to introduce a bill, when he was a senator a few years ago, to curb that some, but it didn't go anywhere. It basically died in committee. So that's why that law is here for that. As far as the homeless situation, I am a Christian, and I remember, and I have a heart for people, and I remember in Luke 16, it talks about the beggar, Lazarus, the beggar, and the rich man. And I could just remember the beggar was laid at the gate, and he was carried to heaven by the angels. And the beggar was a homeless guy at the time. And he was in heaven, so the rich man was in heaven, and he wanted Lazarus, the nasty, homeless beggar man, to dip his finger to cool his tongue at that time. So that's what my Christianity tells me to do. I'm not going to be like the rich man and turn these people out and not try to help them as much as I can. So I'll never back down from that. I will not back down from my support from these programs because they try to help people, and my Christianity will not allow it. So that's about as strong as I can say that. And I know you've only lived here a few years. No, sir, you were not going to say anything. I know you've only lived here a few years, but we're up here and we're going to stand up for our people. We're going to stand up for the Economic Development Director and our partnerships because they work, and we know they work. We see the things behind the scenes that make them work, and it's not left or right or liberal or conservative. It's jobs, and that's what we're going to try to get our people back to the good paying jobs that they deserve. I was contacted by Buncombe County and Transylvania County commissioners this past week, and they all offered to help us any way they could. I had a Buncombe County commissioner contact me, and she said if there was anything that they can do to let us know. And then I had gotten an email from the Transylvania chairman of the Board of Commissioners there. They went through a similar problem with Acoustus, is that Acusta? Okay. When it closed, it was a plant that closed, I guess a few decades ago. And I told him that they were a good example of how you can rebound from a plant closing because they really have done a great job in Transylvania County with that and everything. But I've heard from others in the community. I know Brandon and Tommy have heard from a slew of people, and I appreciate, and I think our board is blessed to have you two on our board at this time. You were here during the floods in that part of the county, and you're here for this. And I can't imagine the friendships that you guys have, being able to reach out and talk to these people and try to let them know what all's being done for them. And we are laser focused, as I said at the meeting, we are laser focused on making sure our people can get those jobs again. My great-grandfather went to the mill. Actually, he lived in Jackson County and moved here to Clyde so he could work at the mill. And then my grandparents worked at the mill. And then my dad worked with Jennifer's dad at the Canton Yard on Southern Railway. My dad was a train engineer. And I can remember every now and then, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. Every now and then my dad would sneak me on the train. And so that was the most boring thing because you're real excited and you get on the train and after about 5 minutes of going back and forth on those tracks. Because what he did in the yard was the chip mills, he would get the cars and line them up to where when the road train came through, they'd have them all lined up and they'd hook to. And so it took a lot of work to get those all lined up. And of course they were bringing cars to empties and they had to do all that. So for about 10 minutes, it was real exciting. And so for the rest of their shift, I was just basically hostage to going up and down the train track. And I appreciated my dad's job. But anyway, my dad would not have worked. He would have worked on the railroad in Asheville, I guess. And he had to finish his career there because they closed the Canton Yard in the 90s, I guess, for whatever reason. Dad said they started using a lot more. The trucks is why they started, that went away. So, but it's just the mill closing is just, it's just hard. It's going to be hard something for all of us, I think, to get over with because I know, and I always call it the champion plant because that's what it always was until 1999. And they just did so much good for the community. And even today, they don't do as much today as they used to, but I was thinking of is it Santa Pal that they do every year, Tommy? Is that, okay, at the Fairgrounds? And that, I don't guess that'll be done again. And I don't know how many kids that they help with the school system.
I kind of look for those guys to keep that going.
Okay, well, you tell them that we'll support them if they do, because we always support them with a donation for them to use the fairgrounds. So, but they used to do so much. The YMCA that's there, the Champion built that, and my dad used to tell me stories of all the things that they used to do, and it was just, it was amazing because it was just little things that you don't recognize that they did. And but anyway, it's really been it's really affected me. It's affected my heart, I guess, and everything, to know that that's not going to be there anymore. When you go through Canton, it's going to be quiet, and I don't know if I'm going to ever get used to that. So, but
My
anyway.
husband says it's going to have a whole new sound when it shuts
Oh,
down.
yeah, you're right about that.
It will.
Okay. Well, maybe there'll be another industry go in there, and there'll be either the same sound or some good sounds we can get used to. But I'm hoping that the mill management and whoever the hierarchy is will let somebody buy that and make it even better than what it was before. So I'm optimistic for the future, and I know other communities come past it. In Haywood County, we've got great people here, and I think we will too. And I appreciate, David, your work, because I know you were working 24/7, 7 days a week, because I talked to you on Saturday, and you were doing something that day, and you were doing something on Sunday. So I appreciate all the work that you and Bryant have done, and I know Chris, and probably I'm leaving people out, but I just appreciate everybody that's worked on this. So, okay.
I
Go
do
ahead.
want to say one thing, Mr. Walker, let me make sure I've got the date. October the 3rd of 2022, the Board of Commissioners signed a resolution because we can't make laws, and we can't change laws just for our county that are created in North Carolina general statute. Wait just a minute. We signed as a board, a full board, we signed a resolution requesting that we had some local authority over the needle exchange program. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we did sign that, asking that we could have some local authority, is that the correct way of saying it? Over the needle exchange in our community. So just letting you know, we are working diligently on reducing the negative things related to those needle programs. Just making you aware of that.
Okay, we'll move on to administrative agency reports and presentations, but I do not have any, right, Brian, tonight? You don't? Okay. And then, did y'all have anything? Under constituent concerns? Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, I'd ask. Yeah, okay. I don't have any discussion or adjustment to the agenda. Does any other commissioners have anything? Okay. All right, the consent agenda, has everyone reviewed that? Items 1 through 6, and does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda?
Just a note there, Mr. Chairman, we appreciate our tax collector and his staff and fine jobs that they're doing. We stand behind you, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think you had a very, very high total that time. We appreciate that, Mr. Bates. Let your staff know. Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion. We approve the consent agenda as presented.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move to our regular agenda. The first item of the regular agenda is to request approval of a resolution of the County of Haywood authorizing the purchase and installation of VO Solutions asphalt pump track at Francis Farm Landfill per exception to competitive bidding requirements. Christian, hey.
Good evening. Velo Solutions, they are the only companies that installs and maintains these pump tracks that are eligible for competitive events under Red Bull. So they have a sole source letter. They are the only ones that do that. So that exempts us from having to bid the project because they are the only vendor that does that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 1 of the regular agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion at all? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, item 2 is to request approval of a design build contract with American Ramp Company for the Haywood County Bike Park. We have our Recreation and Parks Director, Ian Smith. Hey, Ian, how are you?
Evening. First, I just want to acknowledge that the timing of this, given everything that's happened in the community in the past 2 weeks, is not the best. But this project has been in the works for over a year and a half now. Just to recap how we got to where we are currently, we have $1.2 million in funding secured for this project, $500,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act, $500,000 from a North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant, $150,000 from the one-time Product Development Fund grant from the Tourism Development Authority, and a $50,000 grant from the Haywood Health Foundation, all for the Haywood County Bike Park.
What does that total to, Ian?
$1.2 million.
Okay, very good.
The milestones for this contract are based off of the beginning and completion of installation of various aspects of that, whether that being the skills track or the pump track, as well as a performance bond, and the contract totals to $692,543.57. This is only for the bike park. It does not include any sort of pavilion or shelter construction or any sort of parking or anything like that. Just the skills track, pump track, and that is all. There's a 9 to 12 month turnaround from the time that the contract is signed to when American Ramp Company, who this contract is with, they are a subsidiary, a North American affiliate with Velo Solutions and have the qualifications. There's a 9 to 12 month turnaround from contract signing to breaking ground on the project due to a backlog of other projects that they already have.
What's construction time?
The construction time should take anywhere from 3 to 4 months.
Well, I'm excited with this because, this gives our young people something to do. It seems like, it's outdoor recreation. It gets them out of the house. And so I think it would be, I guess they can ride there about any time if they're not having competition. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
This is all being funded by what you said there, the different ones. It's not being funded by us personally here, is it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The funding that you're talking about that you got for this, it's all from grants and stuff, correct?
The $500,000 grant was from the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. We had to provide a $500,000 match for that grant, and that came from money that was allocated from the American Rescue Plan Act in 2022.
Any other question or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 2 of the regular agenda.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Okay. On any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move to item 3, is to request approval to reject detention center expansion bid, RFB 621193 from Hickory Construction Company due to receiving one bid. And Bryant, you want to tell us about that?
Mr. Boyd's coming to the podium, but just wanted to set the stage. Also, Dan Mace, Vice President of Mosley Architects, is here to help guide the conversation on our next steps. We opened the bids, and I know I've been before you 2 or 3 times talking about our budget of $21.5 million. We actually posted the notices that were required through the LGC not to exceed $25 million. We thought we actually would build some buffer in there if prices came in over our estimates. And then lo and behold, when we did open the one bid we received, it was about $28.1 million. So it exceeded our capacity. It exceeded the number that we had talked about. But that doesn't negate the fact that our jail population is at 109 or in some cases greater. And the sheriff's here if you have questions about inmate population. But I'll turn it over to Chris and Dan to walk us through where we are, and more importantly, a different approach if that's the direction the board wishes us to go if you reject the bid for tonight.
The current bid at 28.1 million is a lot higher than the anticipated cost, of about $200 to $250 a square foot higher. With only one bid, we can't call this a responsible bid. There's no competition. There's no other folks to compare this with. We compared to a bid in Wayne County in late 2002 that had a geothermal heat system, which is very expensive in itself, at $650 a square foot. So certainly there's a good number within the last 6 months that shows this bid is just too high, $200 a square foot too high at least. So we're asking to reject that and look at the next steps. Again, I want to repeat that. 28.1 million was the bid, not like some of the propaganda you may read at 50 million invested in this. So it's only 28.1, not 50. So if you reject the bid, then there's some options to move forward. We can rebid it as it is. One of the problems potentially with rebidding is asking contractors to hold a price on equipment for the duration of the construction, which could be 12 to 18 months. With the fluctuating market, I think we all know that prices change most of the time weekly, but at least monthly. We think that's one of the reasons that the bid was inflated, to try to be able to guarantee those prices by the end of construction. But we can rebid it if we choose. That's our option. The other option is an option called Construction Manager at Risk, which allows us to phase part of that particular process to determine what exactly the cost estimates would be. Through a CMAR process, we actually would get to see the subcontractors' bids instead of only seeing the general contractor, which may or may not have added to that. But if you want to know more about a construction manager at risk, Dan with Mosley Architects has been through that process. He can share a little more information if you're interested in listening to that.
Brian, do you care to go back and just talk everyone through the actual bid process, the mechanics of how that works, the time frame, why we only had one bidder, why we think somebody came in at the last minute? If you'll set all that up for us so that everybody knows where we're at today.
Once we engaged Mosley and they did the design and the permitting through the state and approval, they had what we call a set of complete bid documents. Then they put those out on the street to solicit bids. I know talking with Dan and Jason Hopkins, who was working as our project manager, they personally contacted 10 different firms to try to get interest in our project. You'll remember we actually took steps to do pre-qualification of bidders so that we knew that the folks that were going to bid on the project had actual jail experience. We didn't get any, we got 2 firms that actually got pre-qualified, but state law requires 3 bidders. So we came back before the Board of Commissioners and sort of undid that resolution where we pre-qualified, thinking that we would get cast a wider net, if you will. It became a little concerning. Talked to Dan at the managers conference in early February, and at that time only 2 bidders had actually picked up some of those bid documents. So we were kind of holding our breath that we would only get 2 bids, then we would need to open the window back up for another week so we could actually then get the bids as required by state statute. When we had our original bid opening date, and I believe that was February 28th, 27th, I can't remember exactly, we actually held the bid opening here and 0 bids came in. But Hickory Construction was present for the bid opening, but they didn't submit a bid. They did express that at that original bid opening that they would submit one within that next 7-day period, and that's whose bid is before you to reject today at $28.1 million.
Brian,
is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I think I just want everybody to understand the mechanics, because to me, if I was bidding a job and I saw that nobody else was there, I'm not trying to discredit them in any way. I would come in on the high side of what I thought I could do it for. I mean, I think that's my thought. And I'm just trying to be transparent about what we're going through, is so that there's no additional unnecessary speculation about what we're trying to do. But
Saying they tried to highball us?
maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think they got us at list price. No discounts, no rebates.
Brian, could you just review, because I know there's some people really doesn't understand how we got to the bid process. There was a lot of groundwork had to be done, and you know, we're probably going to have to refry these beans several times before this process is over, because there's so many people make up stuff and dream up stuff. But we have followed the letter of the law, so to speak, to the T. We conducted a needs assessment. We need a jail. Number two, we set up RFQ for architects. We had to secure somebody to design the building, and we had to do geotechnical work. So we had around $1.2 million in this project before we were prepared to submit the plans to a construction firm. Is that correct? Somewhere around there?
That 1.2 is what we have total invested as of this morning.
And we had to invest that to to where we could submit it to some contractors. They're not going to bid on a pig in a poke, so to speak. It's like when you build a house, you take your house plan that you bought and you give it to a contractor and say, what will you build this house for? So we didn't have, there was rumors floating around of all kinds of numbers. So what have we got in this project right now?
Not counting staff time, about 1.255 million is the total.
Yeah.
Christian pulled that this morning.
1.255.
Correct.
I just want to make sure I heard you. And so we had to do that to get to the point to where we could say, here are the plans. We've done the geotechnical work, the site plan. We had to work through those right-of-way issues. All of that, we had to do that. We had to spend that earnest money to get to the point to where we could let out those plans to a contractor, and then no one bidded on it. But no one put a bid in it for a long time.
Just the one bid. What you say is
Am I
correct.
pretty correct in
Yes,
that,
sir.
in that summation?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to throw that out there because there's so many people that don't understand. We've had public hearings, we've had all kinds of things, but still there's folks that still really don't understand the process. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
It's much easier to throw rocks from the sideline.
Well, they understand the process, they just don't want to.
Is there
Tell the truth.
something specific about our job, this is really a question for you guys, that would make a contractor in today's world not want to do it? Or it would not be attractive to a handful of people? I mean, we're only asking for bids from 3. So is there something that makes it difficult, hard to build, virtually impossible? Is there a negative? And if there is, what is it?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. In my judgment and opinion, it's not that at all. I think what I've been hearing through other contractors is that in addition to what Chris alluded to, us having difficulty getting subcontractors to hold their prices for the duration of a construction project. A jail does take longer to build per square foot than a commercial office building, for instance. So I think having to get them to pin down their steel bids and covering themselves, because a county can't, and we've had this happen in a couple other counties lately, given the economy, is that the subcontractor said, I need more money. We can't hold our prices anymore. But they bid the project like 12 months earlier or 6 months earlier. And the contractor's coming to a county saying, can you help me? We can, just like you would say, we can't do that. You know, you put in a bid certain, you've got to hold your prices and commit to the duration of the project. That's been a problem. The other thing I've heard is that the amount of work, let's say to an Asheville or a Charlotte firm, the amount of work that they have at their disposal in their backyards is enough to keep them happy. And so when you get out, this similar situation happened to us about 3 years ago in Randolph County, where we had about a $20–25 million jail expansion project that we had. It was actually much more complex than this one is. This was fairly simple as they go. You know, we do have an ongoing security campus. We've got to maintain the integrity of that. But our addition is beside it. You know, it's not that. It's nothing to run people off with. But in Randolph, it had a number of different phases in the facility. We had to build an addition, move people over to get to this, and then move people to that. So it's like a chicken and egg thing. We did the same thing. We pre-qualified general contractors, had 0 bids show up in Randolph County. I would have thought we could have attracted from Guilford and Charlotte and those areas that are close by, even Raleigh, to get there, but nobody did it. So what we recommended to the county and what they did was what Chris mentioned, is moving to a construction manager at risk procurement method. These are the 2 ways I recommend doing the jail, by the way, is either the CMAR or what we did with the design, bid, build, and general contractor pre-qualification. So we've tried that. What we did was we flipped it around and opened it up for CMAR firms. We had 7 jump at it. And then the county, I'll be happy to go into a brief explanation of what that is, if that would be helpful, just so everybody kind of knows how that differs from what you've already done. One thing I want to tell you is it's not going to cost the county anything but a little bit more time to go through this effort. You know, there'll be some time involved. But what it is you advertise for this type of delivery. CMAR firms then, which are general contractors, will then respond to it with a proposal book, just kind of like similar to how you hired the architect. They'll put in a proposal and have references. We check that. We either shortlist an interview or we select based upon the proposals we get as the approved CMAR contractor. What I would then recommend you do is enter into a pre-construction. You have a pre-construction allocation of service with them, and then they take it from there and develop bid it and establish a general, a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP. After they bid the project. But what we would like them to do during the pre-construction effort, which is short since we've got the drawings done, is go through the drawings with a fine-tooth comb and point out anything that they can do. It might be a material that's more readily available than what we specified. It might be an ability for us to negotiate with a sub that is not willing to hold their prices and maybe put allowances in. There's stuff you can do based upon their guidance to help bring the cost back into where it needs to be. We actually looked at 10 of our recent jail projects and did an average cost per square foot. The average cost per square foot for the last 10 projects we've done, or jail projects, it's been about $480 a square foot. So obviously this one over 800 blew the water out of us, and we're like, you know, we just can't recommend that the county pursue that. There's no way to cut enough to get it back in the budget. So I think what this would do is, this methodology would do is allow to move the project forward. It's still, you know, it would cost us a couple of months to get back to the bids. All the bids are open and competitive. There's nothing hidden about it. But what it does allow you to do is you get to see let's say the sprinkler sub price will be bid separately from the site construction price. And all those multiple bids are open book. And then what they do is the CMR charges a fee on that, the general contractor fee of overhead and profit, to assemble that group and build the project. So it's like you're hiring the general contractor through qualifications, and then you get to establish a guaranteed maximum price after the bids are taken based upon your contract with them. So that's how the project gets procured. It's tried to be brief, but I've done a lot of these. All have been successful. Both ways actually have been successful. So
just to take away, Dan, from your comments, you mentioned the national economy, inflation.
Yes, sir.
Has to be a driver.
Yes, sir.
Your own cost estimator came in somewhere around $19.2 million, and it's 28. How did you guys miss that bad? I mean,
yeah, we looked. We actually got our cost estimator's estimate, and as best we could, we got a schedule of values from the one bidder that bid the project, everything but detention equipment was way high from what all of our engineers are seeing. I mean, almost every one of them was way high. The only thing that was in our budget was the security detention equipment. That was where we thought it would be in the cost estimate. So, you know, I mean, we could go through this effort and be in the same spot. At that point, you know, we have to decide what was in the interest. I mean, the jail remains overcrowded. There's really no other way to accommodate in a staff-efficient method the expansion that you need on that site. So, you know, I'm hoping that the economy, we do see that seems to be costs have flatlined a little bit. I just think that the sub-market has to catch up to it. Maybe our timing was just bad. But we really don't recommend you go with one bid when it's obviously high in our opinion, without at least trying this and seeing if this works better and we can get the project back in budget. Again, you're working with the contractor who's going to build the project. Before they bid it, let them come in with some value suggestions on how to cut some cost or save some cost without cutting the much needed jail beds you got to have. So
I was just going to say, I noticed like the concrete was 351% over what you guys estimated. It's like concrete. You can call a concrete yard and find out what it is a yard, and it might go up.
Right.
You can ask them if it's going to go up a little bit. I'm sure it will, but 351%. I mean, it was. I mean, you can tell that was, you know, and then site grading and drainage was up 255%. You know, I mean those are, and then site water and sewer was up 272%. So site water and sewer, there's water and sewer at the site. That's just running a short line. So I can see, I can see where they were. I mean, gouging, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. So
I mean, foundation. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
The only thing I think we have that's unique to this project is really soil based. We have those micropiles, which we've had to do in Henderson County. I mean, we do them all the time. We're doing them in Hamlin County, Eastern Tennessee. That does take it. You know, it's a little bit more expensive of a foundation system than a shallow spread system. So we do have those, but again, it's not anything we haven't encountered before, and we put that into what we thought was a good judgment on what the cost should have been, and this is where we are. So
and people are busy. I mean, I'm busy in my work, and I got 5 calls today for work, and I didn't take any of them because one reason was that, you know, they don't want to wait 2 months. I don't blame them. And I'm like, well, good luck, you know, because everybody's going to tell you that. But it's just everybody is so busy and so backed up, and we just don't have any capacity to do much more. And I guess that's why we don't have a lot of bidders, because they don't have any capacity either. They're probably already got jobs lined up. So if we can use this approach, I think that would be a way, you know, to garner interest, because I told my son, he works in my business, and I said, you know, we don't want to bid jobs. I mean, we're too busy to be trying to nickel and dime people, you know, and stuff. So we've got to, you know, just get the jobs and do them and get it out. We don't have time to do a lot of.
And I've shared this with Bryant too, that, you know, you hired an architect that knows this type of project, and that's what we do. And so I'm not real happy to have to come in front of the board and say that we couldn't get enough bidders to build a really nice project. So I've got a little egg on my face. So what I've offered to him was, should the county decide to move forward with the CMAR process to rebid the project using that methodology, we of course have examples of RFPs that other counties have done with this and evaluations forms that they've used. We'll share that with Chris and Bryant. But we'll rebid the project, go through a value process with the CMAR at no additional cost from us to charge the county to try to bid this thing again. I actually did the opposite in Iredell. In Iredell, we had a CMAR to start with. We got prices on that. I didn't like the prices there. I just knew it wasn't right. So I convinced the county, said, please just let us bid it through a pre-qualification process the other way. I think you could save money. We saved them $2.5 million. And I didn't charge them a penny for that too, because I felt like they weren't getting the value. So that's where I stand with you right now and saying, you know, I'm willing to invest that, my company's time, to redo this project as quickly as we can to get it back and see where the numbers are and see what we can get in the project so you can build what you need to build.
But we built, I'm just thinking back, we redid we built a DSS in the old Walmart, and it came in plenty. You know, this is in 2010. You know, so you can imagine in 2016 we did an animal shelter, and it came in, you know, on bid and stuff. So, but when I think back to those times in my work, there wasn't a lot of work, you know, and people were struggling a little bit. And now it's totally different. There's so much work that you can't get to it. And you just try to do the best you can with what you have. You can't find workers, you know. I know that's why this is a good time for people to find jobs, is because there are plentiful jobs with our mill closing. So I'm thankful that we're in times where that can happen.
Yeah, and I think that's actually, I've done this before with a CMAR type project. Is the county at the time, this was Charleston County, South Carolina, they had a strong desire to have a kind of like a diversionary program where you had some people that made some bad choices. We negotiated with the CMAR firm to actually hire some of those folks and train them as for the construction crew. And so it was actually, that was implemented and that was managed by the CMAR company to help foster local minority, small business, female-owned business participation in their project that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So there's some real advantages here that we have the flexibility of doing with this type of delivery that timing may be a good time to think about something like that. Maybe get some people construction jobs. So.
This company that bid, that's the same one that built the current jail.
I'm sorry, what?
This is Hickory Construction. They
Yes,
built
sir.
the current jail.
Yes, sir. They ended up building our Iredell project when we rebid it without doing the CMAR and bid it hard bid. They were the low bidder on that project, so I've worked with them over the years, yeah.
Well, could they go back in as the way you're talking about doing it now and go cheaper?
I hope so. I hope so. I hope they would try to pursue this CMAR effort and chase it, and so we can evaluate them. I think the important thing is that we need to at least evaluate 3 companies and let them kind of fight for it. I think competition is a good thing.
Well, they've been talking about some of the foundation problems up there and Hickory's one that built that. Would they be able to fix those problems, whatever it is that?
Yeah, I don't think that's part of this scope of work that we just bid, but I mean, you know, what we're doing, I think, the foundations we've got designed for this addition will be sound. And of course, there's all kinds of testing that we make sure has happened before that, so
yeah,
we won't
the
have
geotech,
differential
yeah,
settlement.
we've done that. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I played phone tag Friday afternoon with the president of Hickory Construction, and he left a message saying, because I wanted to let him know we're going to consider rejecting the bid this evening and perhaps go the CMAR route. And he said they always have 1 or 2 CMAR projects in the pipeline or working on, and if that's the route we go, they would probably want to be considered. So.
Interesting.
Right, I hate to put you on the spot, but how much did we spend last year on transporting inmates to other counties, just a ballpark?
It really wasn't that bad. I'm going off my memory, which is, it strikes me about $33,000 last year. Basically, the year before that, it was about half that. But we were in a strange time with COVID too. So now that the jail capacity's where it's at, I would expect that to be much higher. And keep in mind, that's the cost that or the price we pay to the other counties holding our inmates. That doesn't include officer time or fuel, or it doesn't include medical costs. It's really just the housing costs. So that's really not the total cost when you really factor in deputy time. And sometimes we get lucky and can transport to a neighboring county. I know we've taken people to Jacksonville, North Carolina, because that was the only bed space. So it gets extremely expensive when you have to transport to 4.5, 5 hours away.
One of those you just telling me about too, I think we had to transport them probably down toward the coast, and 2 days later had to go back and get them for a court date. Is that right?
If they're housed there and they've got, the judge wants to see them, we have to go back and get them, and that's, yeah. If it was a week or two, it would be a little bit better than 2 days. Yeah.
In that 30-some thousand, 33,000, like you said, the fuel cost, officer time, I know the sheriff spends time daily trying to figure out where to send the inmate, so that time's not included in that number.
It's not, and I would say that it's probably more reasonable to double the housing costs if you start factoring in the employee time. And the sheriff doesn't have a lot of extra positions to run a transportation system.
I had a little heartburn, to be honest with you, over the 21 and a half. It was hard to swallow because we had started out thinking it was going to be even lower than that, actually 2 different times. So it's a little tough for me, with the 21 and a half, and now here we are at 28 and a half. And with that, along with the economic impact that we're going to have from a meal, it grabs a hold of your heart and puts it on pause for just a second. So, looking at rejecting or requesting approval to reject this, I seem to be in favor of it. I mean, sometimes you don't want to go that route, but it sounds like it may be the best way. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there.
I think this other methodology, if we get some more bidders, maybe it will proof it out for us and let us see where we are. And then if we remain in that upper threshold, we may have to reevaluate. I mean, just being fair, there's only so much tolerance for what we can afford to do. So, but at least this would give us, hopefully, would give us some more things to look at.
And I'm hopeful that the bids would come in much better. But if not, we have a fully executed set of documents approved by the state. At some point, we could go ahead and implement that if bids are high and the economy gets worse and it's a better time to look at bidding. That's something we can consider. We talked Friday with Dan and his folks about jail standards, because that would be the only thing that if the state changed the jail standards, would our plans comply? But Dan can speak on it. They don't like to change the jail standards that often. They were only changed a couple years ago, so we're probably fairly safe, and any changes would be minor that could be tweaked. I think that's a technical architect word, tweaked.
Well, I think this decision's easy for me. I mean, we're in the midst of runaway inflation. Contractors are picking their jobs and naming their price. There's so much concrete and rebar out there. And like you say, they want to stay closer to home to do the projects because there's low-hanging fruit right in their own county. And you got all this ARPA funding floating around all over the country, still COVID relief money floating around all over the country. And we're just in a severely inflated climate right now. And I think with the economic news we got in our county, I think it'd be physically irresponsible for me to accept this bid. And I think it would be very responsible to go ahead and call this off and move on with rebidding and getting some other bidders on it, maybe at some point in time. So that's my opinion on it.
And we also appreciate Dan offer to not cost the county any more money. The money we've already spent, we had to do that. I think we've done beat that to death, but we did have to spend that on the front end to get to this point. And I appreciate the offer that you've offered up as well.
What's the time frame on this new bid process?
It would be approximately 2 months, maybe 3 from now, because what you would do is the county would advertise for CMAR. You would give the market a couple of weeks, at least 2 or 3 weeks, to respond to that. Once you get the responses in, you have to evaluate, so maybe another couple of weeks. So you're about a month and a half in before you would evaluate and then select. Then you have to enter into a contract with that firm. get another week or two to get that done before they would actually start. Well, again, we recommend them do a revised estimate and they dive into the documents. That takes some time, so another month for that, and to make some value engineering assessments before they be ready to rebid the project. The rebid would be the same amount of time. It would be about a month-long duration before they would get all their sub-bids in. So I'd say, where we sit right now, minimum 3 months, maybe like 4. So again, we could do that effort. The county doesn't, except for the cost of the CMAR doing their pre-construction work, which is what I've seen in my experience is reasonable. It's not a huge amount of money, but it is some expense that firm will be expected to be paid to get it to ready to bid again, working with our group. So, and then you would see the numbers. And if the numbers are right in budget, you'd have a decision to make at that point, which I would hope it would be in, to say, okay, now let's move it forward or not at that point. But
So 4 months before we had
yes,
a new
yes,
member.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So July.
And at that same time, we sort of have to go back to the square one with the LGC and all of that, but we will handle that as we're going through the CMAR process. We'll get our financing and try to time it for a closing date at the same time.
You think with us just getting one bid like that all these companies are backed up to where it'd be a while before they could even start on it? Or do you think if one of these companies bid on it, they could start on it pretty quick?
Well, that would be something I would want to ask these responding companies. I mean, we might go through this thing and we don't have but one company try to become CMAR. But like I say, I've had the experience where it really flip-flopped in Randolph, and we had that huge interest. We've already actually heard from a couple of contractors, one of them that built my Transylvania facility, that's interested in it and pursuing that. So hopefully you'd get more than 3 to evaluate, and I think that's a great question to ask them.
I'm just a little concerned that they might be backed up and we might end up being put on hold again because of them having so much work.
Right, and like I say, one of my big concerns is I think we could work with the CMAR and how they perhaps if there was a problem subcontractor, it could be steel. Again, you're getting them hard pressed not to hold a price for the duration that they have to. Maybe there's a way we can alleviate some of that concern in the marketplace, so you're not paying for a contractor's risk assessment of escalating prices, which is highly inflationary. I think that's been one of the biggest problems that you mentioned, is the uncertainty in the marketplace. If there's a way we can amend that to say maybe there's an allowance in there for inflationary escalation that might calm the marketplace, you can do that with a CMAR bid where you can't when you single prime bid it like we did. They're just going to take their subs. If they only get one sub bid, that's what they're going to put on there. They're going to mark it up and serve it up. So this way you get to really talk it through with the contractor about what's going on specifically in the marketplace right now and try to alleviate those concerns for that particular sub, should they come up with something.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. If a contractor, couldn't get subs that, they
Yes, sir.
set dates for when they want what part of it done, whatever. And I just want about the availability of being able to get the subs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I think we need to pursue this because the longer we wait, it's only going to go up because it's just the economy we're in right now. So can we expedite it as much as possible? I guess that would be my request because, you've got construction costs are going to continue to go up and probably interest rates too. So I'd like to, expedite that. So do I need to go ahead and get a motion can we approve item 3 then and reject the bid? Can I have a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to reject this single detention center expansion bid from
second.
Hickey Construction.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Now, do I need a motion to direct you to do the Go ahead.
I don't think so at this point. There's nothing official. If that's the direction you want us to go, I'll work with Dan and his
Okay.
folks and get an RFP issued for that construction manager. And then we'll be back in front of you after we have time to get it out and select a candidate. How's that?
Everybody's in agreement with that, right? Okay, consensus, okay. Okay, good. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming, Dan. Okay, item 4 of the regular agenda is to request approval to accept and appropriate North Carolina Office of State Budget and Management grant in the amount of $200,000 to pave, grade, and gravel 7 areas of the parking lot at Fairgrounds. Approval for county manager to execute all documents, and approval to award contract to WNC Paving Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder. Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said it all, but just a little background. This is a grant from the Office of State Budget Management. I think this was a Representative Clampett appropriation to the Fairgrounds, specifically for parking lot repairs and needed corrections, water flow, gravel, asphalt, et cetera. So we've worked very hard to get this in and finally got it approved by the state as the scope of work. So we've been awarded the grant. We attempted to get 3 bids for the work. We got one from WNC, one from Parker Paving. Custom Paving neglected to submit a bid. So as the lowest bidder, I would ask to award it to WNC Paving. I think Tommy was involved with this in the beginning as the board member at the Fairgrounds, and now Terry. So we worked hard on this for a year, I guess, to get to this point. So.
Well, last year, all the paving contractors were booked up. We tried to do this last year. This was actually money that came from the General Assembly. We had a state legislative delegation fella came to a meeting out there, and he said that he saw the need, and he got some money put in the General Assembly for some paving and lighting upgrades. And so I said, way to go, man. So we got that, but we had such a backlog with the paving companies, like we're running into other things. They couldn't do it last year. So I'm glad to see Commissioner Ramey and you get this going, because it's been sitting out there for over a year.
Well, certainly if we don't move quick, we'll miss the window this year.
Yeah.
Both WNC and Parker have told us that just a few weeks after the asphalt plant opens, that they're booked for the remaining time of summer and fall with DOT and other large projects. So if we can get this moving this week, it's going to be a little tough coordinating with events and working the construction while we're having events, but we have to get it moving quickly or we'll miss this window in this paving year as well.
What areas are they paving? Can you briefly describe that?
I can. I have a site map. I think you folks got that in your package. There were 7 sites. The site that's going to require grading, positive drainage, gravel, and paving is an area that's out to the left. If you go up the hill and pull around and basically in front of the building, that area to the left that stays real muddy when it rains and it's kind of a bowl, that's the largest project. There's some cutout repair to the parking lot to the side. There's a seal coat and restripe. There's some area around behind that building that will have some seal coat, stripe, some cutout and pave. So there's 7 different areas, and the 2 biggest areas is the bowl to the left of the building, and then the area to the right as you go up the hill before you get to the building. Most people park there, but they really look like grass areas with no gravel. Those are the 2 largest costs. The others basically cut out repair, seal coat, stripe. So it's really all the way around the main building and up the entranceway.
We're going to save a lot of money from them already being close there too, aren't we?
They were much slower than the other bidder. They were much slower than the other bidder.
Yeah.
Gina, you're on that board. Do you want to say anything? Okay. She's happy it's going to happen. Okay. Well, I'll say that, it was always a big expenditure, lighting and paving, so I appreciate the General Assembly stepping up for that. I was on that board for a long time, till Tommy came along, till 20. I was on that board for 14 years, I guess. So this is great. It's great to see improvements there. I was talking to Vicki Hyde earlier, and we were talking about it being an economic development engine. That's, economic development the Fairgrounds is, because we get a lot of events there. People come and they see the value of the area, so it's great.
It certainly will help. Unfortunately, $200,000 with asphalt and gravel doesn't go very far anymore.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 4 of the regular agenda.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Terry, second. And then any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Chris. Our next order of business is appointments, and we only have one, is to request approval of Stephen Leatherwood to the Agricultural Advisory Board to fulfill an unexpired term through March 1st, 2024. Did you want to say something to that, Brian?
Other than his credentials, Mr. Leatherwood is a lifelong resident of Haywood County, 31 years. He's got a degree in natural resources conservation and management from Western Carolina. He's a farmer that grows 30 acres of vegetables, tomatoes, bell peppers, and his family runs a produce stand. So I think he's more than qualified for that position.
I think he's one of the youngest farmers in the county as well, so it's good to see these young farmers.
I think that's near your business, isn't it? The produce
Yes, it
stand.
is.
May I ask who stepped off that board?
Josh.
That's right. Mercy.
Hey, let's see, a motion to approve item 1 of
So
appointments?
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we do not have a closed session. Does anybody have anything else to bring before the board before we adjourn?
I do, Chairman. I kind of missed out on the constituent concerns there. I'll go back
Okay.
and backpedal a little bit. But
Okay.
I had a couple of items come up, and Bryant helped me out with that. Again, I want to comment on some comments that was made in the public comment session. I'm a generally happy person. I smile a lot. I'm happy, especially when I hear something. I'm glad that we have these meetings videotaped. It's forever a record. And so some of the comments did make me smile. One of them because it was so off base. This board voted to cancel the needle exchange program about 2.5 years ago. And you, like some other speakers, come up and you get confused thinking this is the town of Waynesville. A lot of your comments were directed toward the town of Waynesville, like this homeless director. You said our homeless director, Amy somebody. Sir, Haywood County's never had a homeless director. That was a Waynesville project. Like some other people who run for county commissioner, I'm always amazed that they think they're running for Waynesville alderman. A lot of their agendas based on Waynesville issues. We represent everybody from Asheville Highway to White Oak, all the way to Waterville, Ivy Hill, Soco Gap, the county. Yeah, we represent some people in the municipalities too, but they have their own elected governing boards. And I'm going to say I'm proud of our staff. You popped your gums off about our EDC director making a huge salary. Well, let me tell you something. That man's a multitasker. That's a small portion of what we pay him to do. Not only does he do that, but he's also involved with our community and economic development. He's on our broadband committee. That's won a lot of grants, worked hard for Haywood County. He's also on our Park and Recreation Committee. He's also does great work on the solid waste. He's a multitasker. That's what his salary entails. Now, I know you hadn't lived here very long, and that's fine. We welcome people moving in here. But that road right out there, it can take you right back where you came from. I'm not mad when I say that. I'm a happy person. You can come or you can go. If you don't like our county, you're welcome to leave. We welcome people in, but you're welcome to leave as well. And so when you start that mess, don't expect any five of us, to bow down to that stuff. Terry Ramey and Brandon Rogers forgot more about this county than you know. Lifelong residents. We're looking out for Haywood County people. That's who elected us, and we're doing our job. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anybody else have anything? I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.